Dr. Una Park wiped the sweat from her forehead as she stared at the strange message on her screen. The words still seemed impossible to believe. The Zephyrian Empire, a group of aliens who had kept to themselves for hundreds of years, was asking for human help. Their queen was dying, and their own doctors could not save her. This cannot be real, Una whispered to herself. She had studied alien biology for 10 years, but she had never seen a Zephyrian up close. No human had. They lived far away on crystal worlds and never talked to other species, until now. The diplomatic ship Harmony shook slightly as it moved through space toward Zephyros Prime. Captain Ji-Ho Kim had been quiet during the whole trip. Everyone knew this mission was dangerous. The Zephyrians might change their minds and attack them instead of asking for help. Una packed her medical tools carefully. She had brought everything she could think of: scanners, healing devices, and medicine samples. But she knew very little about Zephyrian bodies. Her books only had basic information. No one had ever studied them closely before. Dr. Park, Captain Ji-Ho's voice came through the ship's speakers. We are getting close to their planet. Are you ready for this? Una looked out the window at the blue and silver world growing larger in front of them. Strange crystal towers rose from its surface like frozen lightning. Even from space, she could see the beauty of their cities. I am as ready as I can be, she said back to him. Remember what they told us, Ji-Ho warned. Do not touch anything or anyone. Their bodies cannot handle physical contact with other species. Una nodded, even though he could not see her. She had read the warning messages many times. Zephyrians had nervous systems that were very different from humans. Any touch from an outsider could cause them terrible pain or even kill them. This was why they had stayed away from other aliens for so long. The ship landed softly on a crystal platform. Una gathered her equipment and walked to the exit door. Her hands were shaking a little. She was about to meet aliens that no human had ever seen before. The door opened, and Una stepped out into the strange world of Zephyros Prime. The air smelled like electricity and flowers. Everything around her was made of crystal or metal that looked like liquid silver. The buildings seemed to grow from the ground like plants made of glass. 3 tall figures waited for her near the landing platform. Una gasped quietly when she saw them. The Zephyrians were more beautiful than she had imagined. They stood almost 8 feet tall, with skin that looked like blue glass. Light moved under their skin in patterns like slow lightning. Their eyes were large and silver, and they moved in a way that seemed to flow like water. Welcome, human doctor, said the closest Zephyrian. His voice sounded like music boxes and wind chimes. I am Counselor Teeman. We are grateful you have come, but we must warn you again. You cannot touch us. Our bodies will reject any physical contact. Una bowed respectfully, keeping her hands at her sides. I understand, Counselor Teeman. I have studied your warnings carefully. I will be very careful. The 3 Zephyrians led her through wide streets made of smooth crystal. Other Zephyrians watched from doorways and balconies. Una could see worry in their silver eyes. Some of them made soft sounds like singing, but she could tell they were afraid. Our queen has been sick for 23 of your days, Teeman explained as they walked. She grows weaker every day. Our best healers cannot find the cause. Her life force is leaving her body, and we do not know how to stop it. Una listened carefully while looking around at the amazing city. The buildings seemed to be alive, with lights moving through their walls like blood through veins. What symptoms does she show? She asked. Her skin has lost its glow, Teeman said sadly. She can barely speak. Her bioelectrical patterns are failing. In our language, we call it the fading sickness. We have never seen anything like it before. They walked through a great archway into what looked like a palace made entirely of white crystal. Inside, more Zephyrians waited. These ones wore flowing robes and had more complex light patterns moving under their skin. Una guessed they were important people in their government. The queen is in the healing chamber, Taman said. But remember, human doctor, you cannot touch her. You must find a way to help her without physical contact, or she will die from your touch before the sickness can be cured. As they walked deeper into the Crystal Palace, Yuna began to worry. In her experience, the most serious medical problems often required direct contact to diagnose and treat. How could she help someone she was not allowed to touch? But she had to try. The fate of an entire species might depend on her finding a way. The corridors were filled with worried Zephyrian nobles, all watching her with hope and fear in their strange silver eyes. The doors to the grand medical sanctum opened with a sound like singing crystal. Yuna stepped inside and immediately stopped walking. She had never seen anything so beautiful and so sad at the same time. The room was huge, with walls that curved up to a dome made of clear crystal. Soft light came from everywhere and nowhere, making everything glow with a gentle blue color. In the center of the room, a crystal platform floated in the air without any support. On that platform lay Queen Lyrilleth. Yuna felt her heart break a little when she saw the queen. The royal alien was even taller than the other Zephyrians, maybe 9 feet long as she lay on her side. Her skin, which should have been bright with moving lights, was now dim and gray. Only tiny flickers of light moved under her skin, like the last sparks from a dying fire. She was the most beautiful being in our world, whispered Chief Healer Vorthok. He was an old Zephyrian, with skin that had turned almost white with age. His voice was full of sadness. Now look at her. We are losing her, and we do not know why. Around the floating platform, 6 Zephyrian doctors stood in a circle. They held strange devices that looked like crystal wands. Soft beams of colored light came from these devices and touched the queen's body, but nothing seemed to help. What have you tried so far? Yuna asked, setting down her medical bag carefully. She took out her scanner and held it up, making sure to stay several feet away from the platform. Everything, Vorthok said, his silver eyes filled with pain. We have used light therapy, bioelectrical field adjustment, neural pattern correction, and energy transfer treatments. Nothing works. Her life force continues to fade. Yuna turned on her scanner and pointed it at the queen. The device hummed softly and began showing her information about the queen's body. What she saw made her stomach feel cold. The numbers on her scanner were very bad. The queen's neural activity was dropping fast. Her bioelectrical system, which kept her body working, was shutting down piece by piece. It reminded Yuna of human patients she had seen with severe brain injuries. Your Majesty, Yuna called softly to the queen. The royal alien's large silver eyes opened slowly and looked at her. Even in her sick state, the queen was magnificent. Human doctor, Queen Lyrilleth whispered in a voice like distant music. You have come so far to help us. Can you save me? Yuna studied her scanner readings again. She had seen this pattern before in human patients. I think I know what is wrong with you, Your Majesty. Your nervous system is having what we call cascade failure. Each part that stops working makes other parts fail too. The Zephyrian doctors moved closer, their crystal devices still glowing. We know this, Vorthok said, but we cannot stop it. Our healing methods are not working. In human medicine, Yuna said slowly, we sometimes fix this problem by directly stabilizing the nervous system, but it requires physical contact to work properly. The moment she said the words physical contact, every Zephyrian in the room stepped backward. Their skin patterns flickered with what looked like fear and shock. Physical contact, Vorthok repeated, his voice rising higher. You mean touching, actually touching the queen's body? Yes, Yuna said, knowing how horrible this sounded to them. I would need to place my hands on her head and neck area to help guide her. Bioelectrical patterns back into proper working order. The court physicians made sounds like frightened birds. One of them, a female Zephyrian, with bright blue skin, spoke up with fear in her voice. Doctor, you do not understand. Physical touch with outsiders brings us terrible pain. It can damage our nervous systems permanently. It could kill our queen faster than this sickness. But without treatment, she will die anyway, Yuna said, trying to keep her voice calm. My scanner shows that she has maybe 2 or 3 days left, possibly less. Vorthok wrung his long, thin hands together. This is impossible. In 3,000 years no outsider has ever touched a member of our royal family. It goes against everything we believe, and everything we know about our bodies. Queen Lireleth tried to sit up on her crystal platform, but was too weak. What would happen if I let you touch me? She asked Yuna directly. I honestly do not know for certain, Your Majesty, Yuna answered truthfully. It might cause you pain, as your people believe. But I have studied your bioelectrical patterns, and I think human touch might actually help instead of hurt. Our nervous systems work in a compatible way. The room fell silent except for the soft humming of the medical devices. All the Zephyrian doctors stared at Yuna, as if she had suggested something completely insane. You are asking us to risk our queen's life on a guess, Vorthok said, his voice shaking with emotion. No, Yuna replied, looking directly at the dying queen. I am asking you to risk her life on hope, because right now, hope is the only medicine I can offer. The High Council chamber was the largest room Yuna had ever seen. The walls were made of clear crystal that reached so high she could barely see the top. 50 Zephyrian leaders sat in floating chairs arranged in a great circle. Each chair glowed with soft light that matched the patterns under each council member's skin. When Chief Healer Vorthok explained Yuna's proposal to touch the queen, the reaction was immediate and loud. Angry voices filled the air like a storm of wind chimes. Many of the council members stood up from their floating chairs, their skin flashing with bright, angry colors. This is madness, shouted Elder Minho, the oldest member of the council. His skin was almost white with age, but now it pulsed with red and orange lights that showed his anger. For 3,000 years, no alien has touched our royal family. We have laws against this for good reasons. Another council member, a tall female named Counselor Sojin, pointed at Yuna with a long, thin finger. The human wants to kill our queen with her bare hands. This is not medicine. This is murder. Yuna stood in the center of the circle, feeling very small surrounded by so many angry aliens. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small device. When she pressed a button, blue light filled the air above her head, showing pictures and numbers that floated like ghosts. Please look at this information, Yuna said, trying to keep her voice steady, even though her heart was beating fast. These are bioelectrical patterns. The red lines show Zephyrian neural activity. The blue lines show human neural activity. The floating pictures showed wavy lines that moved like slow lightning. Some of the council members leaned forward to look more carefully, but many others turned away in disgust. See how similar the patterns are, Yuna continued. Human bioelectricity operates on frequencies that match yours. We could work together, instead of fighting each other. Lies, shouted Counselor Minho. All contact with aliens brings pain and death. Our ancestors learned this lesson long ago. That is why we stay away from other species. But one young council member named Hannah was studying the floating pictures very carefully. She was smaller than the other Zephyrians, with bright green skin that glowed with curiosity instead of anger. Wait, she said in a quiet voice. Look at these numbers more closely. The other council members turned to stare at her. It was unusual for such a young member to speak during an important debate. What if our ancestors were wrong about some things? Hannah asked, her voice growing stronger. What if not all touch brings harm? What if some kinds of touch can actually heal? Elder Minho's skin flashed with shocked red colors. How dare you question our ancestors? They were wise and kept us safe for thousands of years. But they never met humans, Hannah replied, standing up from her floating chair. They made rules based on contact with other alien species. Humans might be different. The argument grew louder and more heated. Some council members supported Hannah's ideas, while others were completely against them. Their voices rose and fell like music, but angry music that hurt to listen to. Through the crystal walls of the chamber, everyone could see the medical center where Queen Lireleth was dying. The soft glow from her room was getting dimmer and dimmer as time passed. Counselor Taeyong, a middle-aged Zephyrian with dark blue skin, stood up slowly. Even if the human is right about bioelectrical compatibility, he said, the risk is too great. If she is wrong, our queen will die in terrible pain. If we do nothing, the queen will die anyway, Yuna said quietly. Her words made the chamber fall silent for a moment. My scans show that she has very little time left. Maybe 1 day, maybe 2, at most. Elder Minho slammed his hand against the arm of his chair, making a sound like breaking glass. I will not allow an alien to touch our sacred queen. It goes against everything we believe. What we believe might be killing her, young Hannah said bravely. Our own healing methods are not working. Should we let her die to protect old traditions? The debate continued for what felt like hours. Some council members walked around the room, waving their arms and making angry speeches. Others sat quietly, thinking hard about the terrible choice they had to make. Yuna watched the light from the queen's room getting weaker and weaker. She knew that every minute they spent arguing was a minute closer to losing their chance to save the queen's life. Please, Yuna said finally, her voice cutting through the noise. I understand that this goes against everything you have believed for thousands of years. I understand that you are afraid. But your queen is dying right now, while we stand here, talking. She pointed toward the medical center where the queen lay. Look at her light. See how dim it has become since we started this meeting. Time is running out. Every second we delay makes it less likely that any treatment will work. The chamber fell silent again. All 50 council members looked toward the crystal walls, watching. Their beloved queen's light grew dimmer and dimmer, like a candle burning down to nothing. After hours of angry debate, the High Council had finally made their decision. They would allow Yuna to try her dangerous treatment. The queen herself had asked to speak with Yuna privately before the attempt. When Yuna walked back into the grand medical sanctum, she saw that everything had changed. The room was now filled with Zephyrians. Every member of the High Council was there, along with court officials, healers, and guards. They stood along the crystal walls like glowing statues, their skin patterns flickering with nervous energy. Queen Lireleth lay on her floating platform, looking even weaker than before. The debate had taken 3 hours, and in that time, her condition had grown much worse. The lights under her skin were barely visible now, like the last embers of a dying fire. Your Majesty, Yuna said softly, as she approached the platform, the council has agreed to let me try the treatment, but the final choice is yours. The queen's large silver eyes opened slowly and focused on Yuna's face. When she spoke, her voice was so quiet that everyone in the room had to lean forward to hear her. Human doctor, Queen Lireleth whispered, I have lived for 200 years. I have seen my people grow and prosper, but I have also seen us become afraid of the outside world. Maybe it is time to be brave instead of afraid. She paused. To breathe, each breath seeming to take great effort. I choose to trust you. If I must die, let me die trying something new instead of just giving up. The room was completely silent. Even the soft humming of the medical machines seemed louder than usual. Chief Healer Vorthok moved closer to the platform, carrying emergency equipment. His hands were shaking as he prepared for what he was sure would be the queen's death. If this kills her, he whispered to Yuna, you will be responsible for the death of our beloved ruler. Yuna nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She had never been so nervous in her entire life. Her own hands were trembling as she moved closer to the floating platform. Your Majesty, Yuna said, This might feel very strange. I need you to try to stay calm and relaxed. I will be as gentle as possible." All around the room, the Zephyrian witnesses held their breath. Their bioelectrical patterns were flashing with fear, excitement, and hope all mixed together. The air itself seemed to sparkle with nervous energy. Yuna slowly raised her right hand toward the Queen's head. Her fingers were only inches away from the royal alien's forehead. She could feel the heat coming from the Queen's skin, and she could see the weak patterns of light moving underneath. "Here we go," Yuna whispered, and she gently placed her palm against Queen Lyrillith's forehead. The moment their skin touched, every Zephyrian in the room gasped at exactly the same time. The sound was like wind rushing through a forest of crystal trees. They all expected to hear screams of pain from their queen. But instead of screams, something amazing happened. A warm golden light began to glow where Yuna's hand touched the Queen's skin. The light was soft and beautiful, like sunshine through honey. It spread slowly from the contact point, flowing under the Queen's skin like liquid gold. Yuna felt a strange tingling sensation in her fingers. She could actually feel the Queen's neural patterns through her skin, like electrical currents flowing in wrong directions. The patterns were chaotic and broken, like a song with too many notes missing. Working very carefully, Yuna began to guide the Queen's bioelectrical system back into proper order. Her human nervous system seemed to provide a stable framework that the Queen's failing system could follow. It was like Yuna was teaching the Queen's body how to work correctly again. The golden light spread further across the Queen's skin. Where it touched, the dim flickering patterns became bright and steady again. The Queen's skin began to glow with healthy blue light, instead of the gray, dying color it had been. "This is impossible," Chief Healer Vorthok breathed, staring at his medical scanners. The devices were showing that the Queen's neural activity was not only stabilizing, but actually getting stronger. The cascade failure is reversing itself. Around the room, the Zephyrian witnesses watched in amazement as their Queen slowly came back to life before their eyes. The dying flicker under her skin became a steady, beautiful radiance. Her breathing became deeper and more regular. Queen Lyrillith's eyes, which had been dim and unfocused, began to shine with their old brightness. The golden light where Yuna touched her continued to glow, creating patterns that were completely new, not purely Zephyrian, but not human either. Something entirely different and wonderful. "I can feel my strength returning," the Queen whispered, and her voice was already stronger than it had been in weeks. 3 days had passed since the incredible moment when Yuna touched Queen Lyrillith. The entire crystal city of Zephyros Prime buzzed with excitement and amazement. Word of the miracle had spread to every corner of the empire, and now thousands of Zephyrians had gathered in the great assembly hall to see their queen with their own eyes. Yuna stood in a small room behind the great hall, adjusting her formal clothes nervously. She wore a simple white dress that the Zephyrians had given her, made from fabric that shimmered like starlight. Through the crystal walls, she could see the huge crowd waiting outside. "Are you ready for this?" asked Captain Jiho-Kim, who had arrived that morning with more diplomats from Earth. He looked proud but also amazed by everything that had happened. "I still cannot believe it worked," Yuna said, shaking her head. "When I touched her, I was not sure what would happen. I just knew we had to try." The doors to the assembly hall opened with their musical chime sound. Yuna walked out into the largest room she had ever seen. The hall was so big that it could have held 10 football fields. Crystal columns reached up to a dome that showed the stars above. Thousands of Zephyrians filled floating seats that rose in circles around a central platform. In the center of the platform stood Queen Lyrillith, and Yuna gasped when she saw her. The Queen looked completely different from 3 days ago. Her skin glowed with beautiful blue and silver lights that moved like dancing water. She stood tall and proud, radiating health and strength. But the most amazing thing was the golden mark on her forehead where Yuna had touched her. The mark had not faded away. Instead, it had become a permanent part of the queen's appearance, glowing softly, with warm light that mixed beautifully with her natural blue patterns. "My people," Queen Lyrillith's voice rang out clear and strong, reaching every corner of the great hall. "3 days ago, I was dying. Our greatest healers could not save me. We faced the loss of our royal line and the end of our ancient traditions." The crowd was completely silent, hanging on every word their beloved queen spoke. "But then came Dr. Una Park from the planet Earth," the queen continued, gesturing for Una to step forward. "She offered to help me in a way that went against everything we have believed for 3,000 years. She asked to touch me with her bare hands." A murmur went through the crowd as they remembered the shock and horror that idea had caused just days before. "We believed that touch from outsiders could only bring pain and death," the queen said. "But Dr. Park showed us that some touches can heal instead of harm. She proved that some contacts can build bridges instead of walls." The queen turned to face Una directly. Her silver eyes were bright with gratitude and affection. "Dr. Una Park," the queen said in a voice that carried to every seat in the hall, "you saved my life. But more than that, you opened our minds to new possibilities. You showed us that our fears might have been keeping us from wonderful friendships with other species." Una felt tears in her eyes as the queen continued speaking. "Today, I give you a title that no outsider has ever received. I name you Sister of the Crown, the first alien to become part of our royal family. You will always have a home here among us." The queen raised her hands, and a beautiful crown made of crystal and gold appeared in her palms. She placed it gently on Una's head. The moment it touched her, the crown began to glow with the same warm golden light as the mark on the queen's forehead. The crowd of Zephyrians erupted in celebration. Their skin patterns flashed with joy and excitement, creating a beautiful light show that filled the entire hall. Many of them were crying tears that sparkled like diamonds. Captain Jiho Kim watched from the side of the platform, smiling with pride. Humanity had done something incredible again. They had found a way to heal and help when others thought it was impossible. Over the following weeks, the story of the human who healed with her hands spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed ships could travel. Every species heard about the human doctor who had saved an alien queen with a simple touch. The Zephyrian Empire, which had been closed to outsiders for thousands of years, suddenly opened its doors to the galaxy. They started the Medical Exchange Program, where human doctors would work with Zephyrian healers to help patients from both species. Soon, other alien species wanted to learn from the humans too. The Zephyrians told everyone about human kindness, bravery, and willingness to help others even when it was dangerous. Una spent the next 6 months living on Zephyros Prime, teaching Zephyrian doctors about human medicine and learning about their amazing healing techniques. The golden mark on Queen Lyrillith's forehead became a symbol of hope throughout the galaxy, proof that different species could touch each other's lives in beautiful ways. When Una finally returned to Earth, she carried with her new friendships, new knowledge, and new hope for the future. She had proven that sometimes the most powerful medicine in the universe was simply the courage to reach out and help someone who needed it. No matter how different they might seem,